Welcome to our online election board worker training for clerks and judges for the April 4th, 2023 and May 2nd, 2023 City of Lincoln elections. We are offering online training as an option for our poll workers. If you are a new poll worker, you are welcome to do training online. You may contact Sandy to schedule an in-person training if you would prefer. This training will allow you to understand your role as clerks and judges. Each election board worker will be issued an election board manual. There will also be a manual in the Blue Book. Please read it thoroughly prior to Election Day. If you've received your manual, please follow along as we will continually refer to it throughout the training. The manual is also available on our website under the Election Board Worker Information link. Election Board general information will be found on pages 1 through 4 of your manual. A normal election board consists of an inspector, clerks, and judges. Clerks and judges should be willing to serve exchange jobs during the day. Basic requirements for poll workers are good eyesight, ability to sit from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., ability to follow instructions and write legibly. The ability to assist in setting up the polling area includes setting up the polling booths and the ExpressVote. State law requires election board workers to attend training prior to each statewide election. This online election board worker training will count as your training. There is a quiz on our election board worker information page on our website. Once you take that quiz, you will be credited with taking the training. Election board conduct: refrain from excessive and loud visiting with each other. Treat all voters with courtesy. Avoid asking personal questions of a voter unless required as an election duty. TVs, radios, and newspapers are not allowed because of political advertisements. Do not engage in any political conversation while conducting the election. Do not smoke inside any polling place. Use designated exterior smoking areas. We have two types of election board workers. Appointed election board workers have been assigned to a specific precinct or polling place for a 2-year period. Reserve election board workers are substitute workers who have been called upon to take the place of an appointed worker who is unable to serve a specific election. Breaks and lunches are allowed. The board should work together to make sure there are 15-minute breaks in the morning and afternoon, and also 30 minutes for lunch. The inspector is responsible for the payroll sheet. First thing on the morning of the election, each board worker should print his or her information on the payroll sheet and include an emergency contact name and phone number. Clerks and judges are paid $10.50 per hour and also paid for training. If you are not working in your home precinct, it is important to request an early vote ballot. Applications are available on our website, www.lancaster.ne.gov/election. Emergency procedures are located on page 4 of the manual. For severe weather, follow the building's emergency procedures. Move to a place of shelter without jeopardizing the safety of workers or voters. The board should take ballots, ballot box, the list of voters, and the sign and register with them. Election day information is located on pages 7 and 8 of the manual. Election board workers should report to their polling location at 7 a.m. to assist in setting up for the day. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. No voter may cast a ballot prior to 8 a.m., and anyone who is in line at 8 p.m. must be allowed to vote. If a line forms, please check to see if all voters are in the correct location. If there is more than one precinct located at a polling location, please make sure they are in the right line. There is no type of electioneering for any candidate or measure that is currently on the ballot for the current election within 200 feet of a polling location unless it is on private property not controlled by the ownership of the building in which the polling place is located. All cell phones should be silenced but are not required to be turned off. A voter may take a picture or selfie of them casting or marking their own ballot. Any voter may challenge another voter's eligibility to vote. This does not happen very often, but a challenge oath is located in the supply box. It is printed on goldenrod colored paper. You may answer questions from the media regarding the number of people who have voted. If they persist in asking questions, please have them contact the election office at 402-441-7311. Election day visitors will include district inspectors, ExpressVote technicians, observers or poll watchers, or exit pollers. We have an election board management system which allows our office to communicate with our election board workers through emails and text. If you have an email address, please make sure our office has it. The ExpressVote machines assist voters with disabilities to vote in private and unassisted. Ballots have a coding track, little black boxes on all four sides of the ballot. Previously, the coding track was just on the left side of the ballot. Voters will mark their ballots with black ink. You will also notice the ovals are smaller. Judges will initial the ballots in red ink, and please keep the initials within the initials box. Manual pages 9 through 14 outline the duties of the inspector. Since this is the training for clerks and judges, we will not discuss this with the clerks and judges. Manual pages 16 through 20 outline general instructions for clerks. Clerk 1 is responsible for the list of registered voters, which is located in the blue book. The blue book is a 3-ring binder which will be located in the ballot box when the inspector picks up supplies. Contents of the blue book include a signature guide, which can be used as a guide for a voter with vision issues to sign on the correct line in the sign-in register. Voters' names are listed in alphabetical order. The number the voter appears in the list of voters is in the first column. The clerk will also print the line number from the sign-in register in the first column. Second column lists the voter's date of birth. Third column lists the voter's name and address. If there's a check mark to the right of the voter's name under the ID required heading, this only means that the voter needs to provide proper ID in order to vote. There are only a handful of voters in the county required to do this. Instructions for this are on page 17 of the manual. The fourth column lists the precinct number and ballot style. Most precincts have only one ballot style, but there are 33 precincts that have more than one. This is important to make sure the voter is given the correct ballot for this election. The fifth column is where the clerk will print the voter's name once the clerk has verified all the information in the third column. If the word inactive is listed in the fifth column, it means the election office has received some type of information that the voter may no longer live at the address. Please double check that the voter does live at that address before allowing the voter to vote. If the voter has a new address, the voter needs to vote in the precinct of his or her new address. If the word absentee is listed in the fifth column, it means that the voter has been issued an early vote absentee ballot. If the voter still wants to vote, the voter must vote a provisional ballot. The sixth column has a barcode which represents the voter's registration number, and it is used after the election by election office staff. The correction and notations page is on yellow paper. This is a page where the election board can place any corrections for the election staff to follow up after the election. The provisional ballot page is on pink paper. Any voter who votes provisionally must be listed on this page. The payroll form is found in the blue book and is on green paper. The inspector is required to make sure this is completed correctly. The ballot log card is also located in the blue book. Election Day poll worker hotline is 402-441-9090. Election board workers may use this phone number to reach an election staff member to assist them if they have any questions. There is also an abbreviated instruction sheet for election board workers that outlines the responsibilities of each worker. There is an instruction sheet which will assist election board on how to access the voter check website information if you have access to a smartphone, tablet, or laptop at your polling location. This sheet is an outline for polling place accessibility guidelines for the election board workers to review and make sure that their polling site meets all the requirements. An election board manual is also located in your blue book. An individual precinct map is also located in the blue book. A listing of possible emergencies and how to handle them is located in the blue book. Clerk number 1 duties will be found on page 15 to 18. Clerk number 1 duties can be located on pages 15 to 18. Clerk 1 checks the voter in. Clerk number 1 asks the voter for his or her name and then locates them in the list of registered voters. Clerk 1 then asks the voter for his or her address and verifies that it matches the address listed in the list of voters. Then checks the ballot style, if in a precinct that has more than one ballot style. Clerk 1 then tells Clerk 2 the voter's name and ballot style, if in a precinct that has more than one ballot style. Clerk 1 then prints legibly the voter's name in the 5th column under the printed name of voter. Clerk 1 then prints the line number from the sign-in register where the voter signed their name. Important reminder, clerk must print voter's name under the printed name of voter column after verifying all information. When the inspector picks up supplies, he or she will be provided with a list of voters who have voted early after the poll books were printed. One poll worker should print the word absentee in the list of voters next to these voters' names. This is a listing of precincts that have more than one ballot style or a rural ballot style combined with the precinct. If a voter notes an error in the list of voters, such as transposing of letters in the name, or that there is someone in the list of voters who no longer lives in Lancaster County, this should be listed on the corrections and notations page. It is on yellow paper. Clerk number 2 duties. Clerk number 2 is responsible for the sign-in register. The sign-in register will be found in the ballot box along with the ballots that the inspector has picked up. This is a picture of what the inside of the sign-in register looks like. Once clerk number 1 has verified the voter's name, address, if in a precinct that has more than one ballot style, they provide that information to clerk number 2, and clerk number 2 prints the voter's name under clerk prints voter's name in the sign-in register and places a check number under the appropriate column on the left side of the sign-in sheet. Then clerk number 2 turns the sign-in book around and the voter signs his or her name and prints his or her address. Instructions for judges can be found on pages 21 through 23. Judge number 1 is responsible for issuing the ballots, Remember, we are no longer marking ballots with pencils. Judges will initial the ballot with a red ink pen, and please keep initials within the initials box. Two judges of different political parties must initial the ballot to make the ballot official. If you are serving in one of those precincts with more than one ballot style, the ballot style number will be indicated on the lower left-hand corner of the ballot. This is a sample of a ballot. Voters will be marking the ballot with black ink, since we are no longer using pencil. The judge should give the following instructions to the voter on page 22 of the manual. Blacken the ovals of your choice completely. Use only the black pen provided. Do not cross out. If you change your mind, ask for a new ballot. Inform the voter that the ballot has two sets of initials, making it official. When finished voting, bring the ballot back in the ballot sleeve so that both sets of initials are shown. This is a sample of the ballot sleeves. The judge's initials must appear in the cutout at the bottom of the ballot sleeve. The voter will then go to the appropriate polling booth or to the ExpressVote to cast his or her ballot. Judge number 2 is responsible for initialing ballots and processing voted ballots. When the voter brings the ballot back to Judge number 2 in the ballot sleeve, Judge number 2 should look for the initials in the opening at the bottom of the ballot sleeve, verifying that the ballot is official. Two sets of initials at the bottom. If that is the case, then the ballot is deposited in the ballot box. The voter is offered "I voted today" sticker and is thanked for voting. The "I voted today" stickers will be in the ballot box when the inspector picks up the supplies. If the voter makes an error on the ballot, the voter may request a new ballot. The ballot with an error on it must be spoiled by the voter writing "void" on the ballot, and the voter is then issued a new official ballot. The ballot marked "void" is placed in the spoiled ballot envelope. If the ballot is returned to Judge number 2 and there are no initials or only one set of initials, then the ballot must be rejected and the voter issued a new ballot. The voter should write "rejected" on the ballot and then issued a new official ballot. The rejected ballot is placed into the rejected ballot envelope. Provisional voting procedures are located in pages 24 through 26 of the manual. Provisional voting allows a voter to cast a ballot if their eligibility is in question and otherwise would not be permitted to vote at their polling place. The content of the provisional ballot is no different than a regular ballot, but it is cast provisionally until the election officials can verify the voter's eligibility to vote and are voting at the correct precinct in that election. Reasons the voter will need to vote provisionally: first, the voter has moved to a new street address even if it's in the same precinct. Second, the voter is flagged absentee in the list of voters but has decided to vote at their regular polling place on election day. And the third and final reason, the voter is flagged ID required in the list of registered voters but does not provide the appropriate identification. See page 17 of the manual for additional instruction. Each precinct will have approximately 50 provisional ballot packets. In the front of each provisional ballot packet, there will be a provisional ballot voting checklist with step-by-step instructions. Step 1, verify that the voter is in the correct precinct and polling location. This can be done using the maps provided in the Blue Book and supply box. You can also use the Voter Check website. The instructions are in the Blue Book. Call the Election Day Poll Worker Hotline, 402-441-9090, and make sure to have the voter's name, date of birth, and new address. The election board worker and voter must complete all 4 sections of provisional ballot application form. Section 1 is the poll worker completes this portion, which includes the location of the polling location, where the voter is voting, plus reason the voter is voting provisionally. Section 2, voter completes this section with their new address. This section is a Nebraska voter registration application. Section 3, the voter selects a 5-digit PIN, or personal identification number, which will allow the voter to find out after the election whether their ballot was counted or not counted, and the reason it wasn't counted. Section 4, the voter must sign the form. The provisional ballot envelope has 2 sections. Section 1, the voter completes and signs this section. Section 2, the election board completes this section. The clerk will print the voter's name, address, line number from the sign-in register on the provisional voter page in the blue book. The clerk will print the voter's name in the sign-in register along with the appropriate check marks, including a check mark under the provisional ballot column. Then the voter will sign their name and print their address. Voters needing assistance information may be found on page 27 of your manual. If family member or friend assists a voter, the person assisting the voter must sign the voter assistance oath in front of the sign-in register. Information about the ExpressVote machine is on page 27 of the manual. The state of Nebraska has purchased machines that assist voters with disabilities to be able to vote in private and unassisted. The ExpressVote machine will be included with ballots and supplies picked up by the inspector the day before the election. There is a separate video available on our website explaining how to operate the ExpressVote. This is also a 2-page instruction sheet that explains, mark that. There is also a 2-page instruction sheet that explains how to set up the ExpressVote. In addition, an ExpressVote technician will be visiting your polling site first thing in the morning to make sure you have set it up correctly. There will be a 2-page instruction sheet on how to set up the ExpressVote. Both are located in your supply box and with the ExpressVote. In November 2022, Nebraska voters approved the constitutional amendment to Article 1-22 requiring voter ID, quote, before casting a ballot in any election, a qualified voter shall present valid photographic identification in a manner specified by the legislature, end of quote. The Nebraska legislature has not yet specified the manner for voter ID. Therefore, voters will not be required to present a photo ID to vote in the City of Lincoln's primary and general elections. Should a voter attempt to present a photo ID, please share this information with them. Closing of the polling place. This information is on page 29 of the manual. Sign all forms. First, place all unused ballots in the clear plastic bag with the yellow unused ballot insert. Next, make sure your rejected ballots are sealed in the rejected ballot envelope. Then make sure all unused but initialed ballots or any spoiled ballots are sealed up in the spoiled ballot envelope. Make sure everything listed on the sign-in register envelope has been placed in that envelope. Next, put all supplies neatly in the supply box. And finally, clean up the voting area. The voted ballot procedures can be found on page 31 of the manual. First, at the end of the day, 2 poll workers of different party affiliations will open the ballot box and count the number of ballots, including the ExpressVote ballots cast, plus the number of provisional ballot envelopes in section 1. Once this step is completed, then place the ballots, including provisional ballots and ExpressVote ballots, in the ballot transport box along with the ballot log card. In the supply box, you will find seals for the transport ballot box. You will find on the ballot transport box where the seals should be applied. In the supply box, you will find name tags with a lanyard. Please place your name on the name tags. And thank you for your help with this election.